Hello and welcome back to the Gibson War Room after quite a lengthy break over winter. Basically it's too cold to game in the garage, but I have been busy making quite a few things and on with vehicles and new tanks, which hopefully you'll get to see some of them in this video. But we're back in Normandy, southeast of Bayeux, as British forces are pushing, trying to flank Caen, but have come up against some stiff German opposition. It's June 1944. And it's the tank attack at St Manvieu farm. Just like to start by saying a big thank you to all the new subscribers and those who are still subscribed. And the plan is certainly to do more videos this year, as well as some other content. I have been asked how I make terrain and if I can do tutorials and the like. I'm on the Bolt Action Facebook terrain page, and I have put some picture guides on there, as I'm not very good at filming how I make things. I have tried. But it was rubbish because basically I forgot to record quite a lot of the steps. So what I'm going to quickly try and do is a breakdown of how I make stuff. I hope it might help a few or give you some ideas for your own projects. Right, today's board is 8 foot by 4 and it's covered by two Geek Villain autumn fleece battle mats. They're 6x4, so I've laid them on top of each other. They're also sitting on some blankets on the boards just to give them a little bit more depth. And again, you can put some polystyrene underneath there just to create some raised areas, as you can see with the little hill that's just in the top left hand corner. Okay, we'll begin with the hay fields or wheat fields. These are teddy bear fur, cut to size, and then I use brown spray just to spray lines down them, just to give the impression obviously of crops. Right, the roads that I have on my boards, they're made out of this industrial carpet. Usually buy it from DIY stores in squares. I normally get grey coloured, or you can get blue. All I do is cut them into strips, usually about 3.5 to 4 inches across. I then paint them brown and then dry brush them. I like my roads to be, certainly my Normandy roads, to be quite dusty looking. This is the little gadget that I use for doing shapes, so that you always get the same width. And again, cut them out. Again, with the roads, once they're done, that's how they can end up. And again, as you can see, using this to mark them and score them. You can also use roads, or the principle of using the carpets, for rivers. Yeah. I also put them on my bridges as well, so that everything kind of matches up. But that's how I do roads and rivers. Also use this carpet for cutting into shapes, and again a little bit of dry brushing and painting brown for the bases of woods as well. Right, my bocage pieces. These are made initially by making a shape from 6mm MDF, cut to a pattern, bevel off the edges. I use XPS foam to then stick on top. Use a hot wire cutter or shaper just to make out the basic shapes. Rubberized horsehair. Pull this off. Stick it on with a obviously with a hot glue gun to tease it out a little bit. Make rough shapes and stick it on that way. I then use filler. It's filler in the UK. I think it's spackle in America. I think it's called. To again go all around the sides, around there. Generally then spray it brown, then dry brush the sides, add a bit more detail, and then put the flock on, and it ends up looking something like this. Again, that's how I do my bocage. Okay, trees, no secret, just use Woodland Scenics amateurs. I bend and twist and cut them to shape. I stick them on metal washers. I use the, I think, 50mm base ones with then some probably some 40mm on top, just to add weight. Cover it with filler, rubberized horsehair, super glued on to the to whichever branches I've left and shaped out, and then flock on top, a bit of a paint and a bit of a dry brush, and done. That's how I do my trees. Hay bales or haystacks. It's a cardboard egg box. Cut the centerpiece off, hot glue them down to a metal washer. I've then got an old doormat that I got from I did get it from IKEA actually, and then cut off a lot of it. Cover this with brown paint and PVA mix, let that set, and then I cover it again with PVA glue, and then I use this stuff to basically dab all over. Then when it dries, hay bale. Right, my houses, the houses on this board are both scratch built. They've been made using XPS foam, so it's extruded polystyrene, which is basically really hard polystyrene. It gets used for heating and that sort of stuff. I get mine, it comes in pink sheets like this. Again, roughly cut the shapes of the houses out, stick them to 6mm MDF, which is obviously pre-cut to the size I want, and then beveled. With the XPS foam, what you then do is mark it and score it and cut out holes, and then what you can do then is turn it from that into the stonework that you see here, which you can then dry brush, and it gives it texture. As you can see, all inside it's just plastic cardboard cut to shape on top, stuck down. Windows are made from plastic card and some tiling spacers, where again I'll use different widths of plastic card to create the little edges. Tile spacers go inside and they create the windows. Doors made with balsa, again just cut down, scratched, scored and painted. It's a bit of an illusion. Essentially it is all just polystyrene. Takes a bit of practice, a lot of cut fingers as well with a scalpel, doing the brickwork out and then pressing the various little bricks in, and also rolling it with tin foil to give it a textured look. But when it is dry brushed and painted, it does look quite nice. And this is how I do my buildings. After heavy fighting around Tilly-sur-Odon, elements of the 1st Armoured Brigade, the 25th Lancers and the Oakwood Rangers have been ordered to exploit a gap in the German defence line and push towards Hill 80 and St Manvieu Farm crossroads, consolidate these objectives and await infantry support. The British will be entering from this table edge, and the objectives are the St Manvieu crossroads and the Hill 80 just in the background, and they have 6 turns to achieve this. A few elements of the 90th Grenadier Infantry Regiment, including a flak unit, are awaiting orders to move when they become aware of advancing British armour heading towards them, but with no infantry support. The Germans prepare for defence when, unbeknown to them, part of the 2nd Company of the 10th Heavy Tank Battalion, as well as elements of the 30th Panzer Regiment, arrive to try and halt the British breakthrough. The Germans will be set up in a perimeter along this line, down and including the little orchard. In this area, the 90th Infantry Regiment and the flak unit can deploy. The 10th Heavy Tank Battalion and 30th Panzer Regiment will all enter on this road. Okay, last few points. The bocage pieces, they do block line of sight and give hard cover. Again, to fire you'd have to be right up to them. The orchard, it can see through, but it's soft cover. The hayfields or wheat fields, they're also soft cover. The rest of the lichen that you can see all around the roads doesn't give any cover, it's there just for effect. Trees or the woods block line of sight and count as rough ground, and of course the buildings also block line of sight and count as hard cover. The hill just in the background does give elevation, so if you're on it you can fire over some of the bocage that would normally block line of sight. The British can all come on in turn 1 if they wish, or half of their force, and then units follow on. The German infantry and flak unit deploys on table, and again their armoured support can begin to come on all on turn 1 or subsequently on turns after. The German forces consist of elements of the 1st Battalion 90th Grenadier Infantry Regiment, led by Lieutenant Muller and 2 men. There is a Panzer Schreck team, Sergeant Hoffmann and 10 riflemen with 2 Panzerfaust and LMG, Lieutenant Kruger manning the 88, Hanomag as a tour for the 88. Sergeant Roth in his Panzer IV from the 30th Panzer Regiment. Oberleutnant Langer in a Tiger I of the 10th Heavy Tank Battalion, and Sergeant Becker also in a Tiger I of the 10th Battalion. The British forces are all regular and consist of the following. In the Stuart Recce tank is Sergeant Miller. Commanding B Squadron 25th Lancers is Lieutenant Elland. In the Firefly is Sergeant Francis and Sergeant Morley. Commanding C Squadron of the Oakwood Rangers is Lieutenant Willis. In the Firefly is Sergeant Vine. And finally, Sergeant Kane. Okay, turn 1, and the Germans have deployed with the Panzerschreck team in the orchard, Lieutenant Muller in the courtyard of St Manvieu Farm, Fedvel Hoffmann and his section behind the bocage, and Lieutenant Kruger with the 88 on the hill. The first die out the bag was German, and the 88 went on to ambush. Second dice was German, and the Panzerschreck team went on to ambush. The third die was German again, and Fedvel Hoffmann and his section also went on to ambush. British die, and Sergeant Miller in the Recce Stuart advances on, but before he can open fire on the Germans, they trigger their ambush and fire the Panzerschreck at the Stuart tank. Panzerschreck fires with a +1 for long range and +1 for the Stuart being in soft cover, needing a 5, and it's a miss. The Stuart fires its 2 medium machine guns at the Germans, needing a 7s because it's +1 for moving, +2 for hard cover, and +1 for small team for the Germans. So 7s required off 10 shots. That's 1 possible, and it's a miss. German die, and Fettweibel Becker in his Tiger I advances onto the table, moving 12 inches on the road. British die, and Sergeant Francis in his Firefly advances onto the table and takes a shot at the Tiger near the crossroads. It's a 7 to hit for moving, soft cover, and the Tiger's more than half obscured by the building. 1 shot needing a 7, and it's a miss. German die, and Oberleutnant Langer goes down and remains off table. British die, and Lieutenant Elland advances onto the table, taking up position at the bocage line, and opens fire with the 2 machine guns at the German Panzerschreck team. As before, it's going to be 10 shots needing 7s. None. German die, and Fettweibel Roth in the Panzer IV remains off table and goes down. British die, and Sergeant Morley comes onto the table at full speed with a run order. British die, and Sergeant Vine advances onto the table at the far right flank, but just can't get a shot down the road at the Tiger at the crossroads. British die, and Sergeant Kane advances on and can see the Hanomag in the wheat field and opens fire. The Sherman fires needing a 6, +1 for advancing, long range, and the Hanomag is in the wheat field, and it's a miss. The Sherman fires needing a 6, +1 for advancing, long range, and the Hanomag is in the wheat field, and it's a miss. German die, and the Hanomag reverses back down over the brow of the hill and out of sight of the Sherman's gun. British die, and Lieutenant Willis advances into the hayfield. German die, and Lieutenant Muller remains in the courtyard and goes down. Well, it's the end of turn 1. Some shooting, no casualties, but the British definitely attacking in 2 prongs either side of St Manvieu Farm. On to turn 2. Okay, turn 2. The flak stays on ambush. The section behind the bowcar stays on ambush. The first dice out the bag was German, and the tiger fires at the firefly. The tiger needs a 4. It's not over half range, but there is intervening soft cover, and it does get a full sight at the firefly, so needing a 4. And it's a hit. The Sherman's defence is 9. The tiger is a heavy anti-tank gun with a +6, but this will count as a side armour shot. Can it damage? That's bad for the Sherman. The firefly is hit and penetrated. What will happen to it? That's 2 pins on the firefly. It's on fire. Will the crew panic, or will they put the fire out? They put the fire out and the tank goes down. Oberleutnant Langer passes his order test, enters the battle, pivots and advances up the hill, but can't get a line or a shot on the Shermans on the other side of it. German die, and the Panzerschreck team fire again at the Stuart in the hayfield, needing a 5, and it's a miss. German die, and Feldwebel Roth in the Panzer IV remains off table, going down. British die, and Sergeant Morley advances in his Sherman, pivots and opens fire with the 2 medium machine guns at the German Panzerschreck team behind the bocage. 10 shots, still needing 7s. Moved, hard cover, small team. 2 possibles. That's a hit, so that's a pin at least. The veterans needing 5s to kill. No, but 1 pin on the Panzerschreck team. British die, and Lieutenant Elland pivots and advances to follow Sergeant Morley. German, and Lieutenant Muller runs into the farmhouse. German die again, and the Hanomag remains inactive, going down on the reverse slope and out of line of fire from the Shermans. The 4 remaining dice are all British, and Sergeant Miller advances and opens fire again on the Panzerschreck team, still needing 7s. 2 medium machine guns, 10 dice, needing 7s. That's 2 possible. Bit of miss. Sergeant Vine advances, pivots, and has a flank shot at the tiger at the crossroads. It's a 5 to hit, moved and long range. Oh, and it's a hit. Okay, the tiger's a heavy tank, but it's side armour, and the Firefly is a super heavy anti-tank gun. Does it penetrate? The shot beat the armour by 3, rolling 2 dice. That's a disaster for the tiger as it's blown to smithereens. With a violent crack, the tiger is blown to smithereens and burns on the crossroads. The last 2 British dice, and Lieutenant Willis goes on to ambush, and Sergeant Kane stays where he is, going down. Turn 2 started well for the Germans, hitting the Firefly, setting it on fire, but its crew didn't panic, put it out and are working to get the tank moving again. But then disaster struck as the tiger on the crossroads was hit from long range by Sergeant Vine and blown to smithereens. On to turn 3. Okay, the start of turn 3, and the rifle section and Flak 88 remain on ambush, with the crossroads road now blocked impassable with the burning tiger. Oberleutnant Langer continues up over the hill to try and engage the Shermans, but as he does so, triggers the ambush of Lieutenant Willis. Lieutenant Willis on ambush sees the tiger come over the hill and fires its long range, needing only a 4. It's a hit. Can the 75 on the Sherman do any damage against the frontal armour of the Tiger? No, it bounces off, but the unit does get a pin. Langer fires back, needing a 6. He's moved. It's over half range, and the Sherman is in a hayfield, needing a 6, and it's a miss. German and the Panzerschreck team failed its command order and had to go down. British dice and Sergeant Vine advances and opens fire on the Tiger in full view, elevated on the hill. It's a 4 to hit. Oh, and it's missed. British die and Sergeant Morley advances and pivots, spraying the Panzerschreck team with bullets from its 2 medium machine guns at point blank range. It's 10 shots, still needing 6s. Tanks moved, small team, and the orchard counts as soft cover, needing 6s. And that's 2 hits. That's another pin on the Panzerschreck team. 5s to kill. No kills, but another pin. British and Sergeant Miller in the Stuart tank advances, pivots, fires its main gun at the Tiger, elevated on the hill, side shot, and its hull mounted medium machine gun at the German section behind the bocage. The Stuart fires its main gun against the Tiger, needing a 5 for moved and long range, and it's a miss. It fires its hull machine gun, 5 shots needing 6s, long range and moved, and that's 1 hit. So that's a pin on the unit. Can they convert it to a kill? The veterans, 5s? No, but 1 pin. British die and Sergeant Francis rallied, passing his order test, and with 1 pin and then a D1, it's an automatic removal of the 2 pins. German die and Lieutenant Muller runs from the farmhouse to try and get closer to the rifle section. German die and Fettwebel Roth passes his order test, enters the battle, pivots and advances on the reverse slope, out of sight of the Shermans. British and Lieutenant Elland pivots and advances, continuing to follow Sergeant Morley. British and Sergeant Kane issues a run order trying to flank the hill, but as he does so, triggers the ambush of the 88. Okay, the 88 needs a 4 because there is intervening soft cover, the hayfield, between it and the Sherman, and it's a miss. Sergeant Kane survives and continues his mad dash, trying to flank the Germans on the hill. The last eyes German and the Hanomag remains stationary on the reverse slope, going down. Well, it's the end of turn 3, and the British are certainly following their orders and pushing hard in the attack, throwing caution to the wind, trying to flank the Germans at St Manvieu Farm. Whoever gets the first die in turn 4 will be critical. Turn 4, and the first die is German. Oberleutnant Langer goes to fire at the Firefly, but he must pass his order test. He's a veteran, and they pass just. He fires, needing only a 3, and it's a hit. Does the shot penetrate? No, it doesn't, but the Firefly has a pin. British die, and Sergeant Kane continues his mad dash with a run order to try and flank the Germans on the hill. British and Sergeant Morley goes again to try and annihilate the Panzerschreck team. 10 shots with the medium machine guns, needing 6s. Again, small team, and the Germans go down, needing 6s. This time that's 3 hits. So that's another pin on the unit. Can those hits be converted into kills? Needing 5s. No, but another pin on the Panzerschreck team. German die, and the Hanomag advances to shield the 88 from the Sherman should it turn and attack it in the flank. British die, and Lieutenant Elland advances and pivots, covering down the road. German, and Fettbebel Roth advances to cover the reverse slope from any Sherman that might try and flank. British and Sergeant Francis in the Firefly, now back in control of the tank, fires at the Tiger on the hill, needing a 4 for long range, and it's a hit. The Firefly rolls for penetration. It penetrates massively. Can the Tiger survive? No. With a huge explosion, the Tiger bursts into flames on the hill. Sergeant Francis's shot lethal and a battle changer. British and Sergeant Miller in the Stuart stays out of Panzerfaust range, but opens fire on the hedge with his 2 medium machine guns, needing 6s, long range and hard cover. That's 1 hit, so that's a pin on the section again. Can we convert it to a kill? No. So another pin on the German rifle section. British again, and Lieutenant Willis pivots and advances slightly, just using the farmhouse as cover between him and the 88 on the hill. British again, and Sergeant Vine goes for rally order and fails, goes down. German, and the 88 goes on to ambush again. The last die is German, and Lieutenant Muller continues his run to join his rifle section behind the bocage. It's the end of turn 4, and with both Tigers burning on the battlefield and the British pushing on both flanks, it's difficult to see how the Germans can pull this back. On to turn 5. Start of turn 5, and the first dice out of the bag was German. Lieutenant Muller attempted to order a snap to on the rifle section, but even with his bonus they failed and went down. He himself goes on to ambush. British and Sergeant Morley continues to pound the Panzer Schreck team in the orchard, needing 6s. That's possibly 4 hits. Can he convert the hits into kills? It's an extra pin on that unit. Needing 5s, and the Panzer Schreck team is dead. British die, and Sergeant Kane advances, pivots, and takes aim at the Panzer IV. Sergeant Kane needs a 5 because it's advanced, and he is firing across the hayfield, and it's a miss. German die, and Fettbebel Roth fires back, needing a 4 for the intervening soft cover, and that's a miss. British and Sergeant Miller advances and pivots in his Stuart, peppering the bocage with both medium machine guns at the rifle section behind, needing 7s. All missed. British and Sergeant Francis pivots and advances, taking up position, covering the crossroads with the Firefly's super heavy anti-tank gun. British and Lieutenant Elland advances and pivots, making his way onto the road. German die, and the Hanomag stays where it is with a down order, protecting the flank of the 88. The last 2 die were British. Sergeant Vine passed his order test and rallied, losing his pin, and Lieutenant Willis went on to ambush. Well, the end of turn 5 sees the British closing in on their objective. The Germans' position looks pretty untenable as the British still advance from both sides. Who gets the next dice in the next round could be crucial, as Sergeant Kane pushes to try and flank the Germans in the rear. The first die is British, and Sergeant Kane's gunner takes careful aim at the Panzer IV, needing a 4. It's a miss. British, and Sergeant Miller advances, pivots, and opens fire with both medium machine guns on the German behind the bocage, needing 6s for moving and hard cover. 1, 2, 3. 3 hits. So that's another pin on the German unit. Can they convert that to casualties? Needing 5s. And that's 2 casualties with 1 possible exceptional. And it is. He removes one of the Panzerfausts. German, and Fettwebel Roth continues his duel with Sergeant Kane, needing a 4. And it's a hit. Rolling for penetration. The Panzer IV's heavy tank gun against the Sherman's defence of 9. And that's penetrated. The Panzer IV's gun has beaten the Sherman's armour by 3. Rolling for damage. And the Sherman's destroyed. The Sherman explodes, sending a huge plume of smoke skywards. British, and Lieutenant Ellen advances, pivots slightly, and also opens fire with its hull and turret machine guns on the Germans behind the bocage, needing 6s. That's 2 hits. That's another pin on the German unit. Can they convert those hits into casualties? Needing 5s. And they do. Is it exceptional? It is. Another Panzerfaust's gone. The German section is now up to 4 pins and has no capability of hitting and damaging the British tanks, as both Panzerfausts are now out of action. German, and Lieutenant Muller orders a snap to, putting himself and the rifle section on a down orders to try and prevent any further casualties. British, and Sergeant Vine reverses and pivots, keeping out a line of sight of the flak, but now covering the hill and the British flank should the German Panzer IV try and advance and come round them. British, and Sergeant Francis now advances through the hayfield. British die, and Lieutenant Willis goes back on to ambush. German die, and the Hanomag advances, reversing closer to the 88, ready to limber and pull back on the next turn. The final die is British, and Sergeant Morley reverses out of the orchard and pivots on the road. And with that, the battle ends. Although the British haven't achieved their individual objectives, on the whole, with the German attrition rate, the British have pushed forward aggressively, and the Germans would start to pull back. All in all, an enjoyable game. The points purists may have a bit of a heart attack, but I painted quite a lot of tanks up over winter and just wanted to get them on table and have a play. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have made some mistakes. As I went through, it's been quite a while since I've played, and I've forgotten how hard it is to do one of these videos as well. But again, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope the terrain feature that I did at the beginning has given you some ideas. And again, I enjoy playing big battles with bolt action. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll tune in again. Goodbye.